Welcome. My name is Nicole Prayan Rodriguez from Illinois Humanities, and I support our Community Conversations programming. Today, I'll be walking you through a brief info session about this new program cycle and tips for applying to host a community conversation series. So I'll cover what you see here on the slide, an overview of Illinois Humanities and the Community Conversations program. And then we'll talk specifically about this cycle's theme, which is History Belongs to All of Us, and some basic eligibility for organizations applying. Then we'll cover some of the program commitments, timeline, what you'll see on the application, as well as things to think about as you complete the application. Just a note, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually jump to or rewatch any of the sections of this video by just scrolling down and click the little more in the comment section, and you'll see these blue timestamps pop up. So if you click those, it'll bring you right to the section of where you want to go. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Illinois Humanities and our work, we're a statewide nonprofit organization that activates the humanities through free public programs, grants, and educational opportunities that spark conversation, foster reflection, build community, and strengthen civic engagement for everyone in Illinois. You can see from this map that our impact is widespread across Illinois between the grants, programs, and initiatives that we operate. And now in terms of our community conversations programming, although we are entering only our second cycle of community conversations, this program really is a continuation of a lot of prior work, including things that we've done, such as the Big Read. And the Community Conversations program supports Illinois-based communities in creating shared space for conversation, activity, learning, and connection, all around a given theme. And to lead these community conversation series, host organizations use a toolkit we provide to select dialogues and activities around that year's theme. So each dialogue or activity is focused on an anchor text connected to that theme. And when we say anchor text, we really mean a variety of things. A text could be a poem, a video, a piece of art, or in the case of this year's theme, a primary document. So this slide provides a visual of what the series looks like. So it's a series of 3 to 4 events. All partners actually use the same opening dialogue guide that focuses on a single shared text. And then they pick from various activities and other dialogue guides from that toolkit to sort of comprise the remaining events in the series. So let's talk a little bit more about this year's theme and eligibility for applying. So this year's theme is History Belongs to All of Us and marks the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the founding of the United States. So Community Conversations is just one part of the slate of 250th programming that Illinois Humanities is participating in. And so other things that we're doing around this anniversary include some of our Rhodes Scholar Speakers events as well as salon events. But for the theme for the Community Conversations series and toolkit this year, we're going to be exploring treasures from Illinois archives and collections to uncover how the people who lived in Illinois before, during, and after the founding of the United States responded to this world-changing document. So what this means is that the anchor text that we're going to be using will be primary documents, whether maps, landscapes, excerpts from court cases, letters, and more, all the things that were produced here in our state. So we are able to offer a maximum of $1,750 towards each accepted host organization's efforts to lead a community conversation series based on the toolkit for this year's theme. And with this, there are some eligibility considerations we want to mention. So just in terms of who can apply, although this opportunity is not open to individuals, our host organizations can be museums, libraries, art councils, historical societies, and other community groups and institutions. Just a note, we do try to prioritize community-based organizations with smaller budgets for this opportunity. The other thing I want to note is while you don't have to have expertise in leading community conversations or facilitating dialogue, we'll train you on that and more to come later. We are looking to partner with organizations who maybe have already been thinking about how they want to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Or maybe you're already doing work or already thinking about ways to reflect on the complex legacy of our country's founding or immigration, or ways to uplift under told stories and showcased diverse perspectives. So these are the things we're looking for in terms of host organizations that might be a really good fit for this opportunity. So host organizations who are selected to commit, who are selected will commit to the following. The first, as we sort of already discussed, is planning, promoting, and completing that series of 3 to 4 events. So if you're thinking, so obviously these events are selected from the toolkit that we provide. And if you're thinking, hey, we've talked a lot about this toolkit, where can I see it? How do I learn more about it? That's a great question. So if you go to the Community Conversations page on our website and you click the Apply to Host Community Conversations, you'll see a little link here that says Sample Activities of Toolkit. And when you click into that, and honestly, the screen might look familiar to you because if you've already found this video, the next link right under this video is a link to review that toolkit. So that will give you kind of a taste of what will be included in the full one soon to come in terms of like what activities and primary documents that we'll be relying on. So just to kind of bring this back full circle, so as you're thinking about building your community conversation event series, your opening facilitated dialogue, because of this year's theme, the text for this dialogue is going to be none other than the Declaration of Independence. So this is a full opening activity you'll see in the sample toolkit. So on the screen, I have the text from it up that you can see. You can see there's a suggested introduction, ways to have the audience engage with the document, as well as prompts for beginning conversation and an interactive activity to sort of close out this dialogue. So that will make up essentially that opening dialogue. And then you'll be going through the toolkit to select 1 or 2 other activities that will kind of be the next 1 or 2 events in your series. We actually have 2 full activities, just once again as samples. And you'll see the first one uses an anchor text from a landmark case of a young Black woman in Illinois who sued for her freedom in 1828. And the second activity, Morris Birkbeck's Letters from Illinois, focuses on letters he wrote to his family back in England about the journey of his immigration and life in what is now Edwards County, Illinois. So if you click into those activities in the toolkit, you can check out the anchor text. You can see the kind of guiding prompts and activities that groups can use to unpack and discuss these documents. And not only will those activities exist for you to choose from, but there are many others that will appear in that full toolkit. And the toolkit explores actually several sub-themes, and you can preview what some of those anchor texts and primary documents are going to be in the sample toolkit. So you'll see here some of the sub-themes: landscape and territory, freedom and equality, migration and immigration, revolutionary visions, how we remember. So we encourage you to kind of look through this and maybe start to think about which of these sub-themes or which of these documents might be ones that you would add to your lineup of events in your series. And then finally, every host's series will end with a closing dialogue that revisits the Declaration of Independence in light of some of the themes and other documents that you explored in the middle of your series. Back to commitments here. Another commitment would be to select a facilitator. This is a person who will be leading the conversation for participants. This could be you, it could be somebody else in your organization, or maybe it's another partner or person you know who might be interested in doing this. And as I mentioned before, it is not a requirement that you already have experience or extensive expertise in facilitating dialogue. And so because of that, we do require that the assigned facilitator from every host organization attend a training at our office in Chicago. This facilitator training is at no cost to host organizations. So we will pay for your travel and accommodations to attend if you're coming from outside Chicago. And the training itself will really focus on building knowledge around the primary sources that appear in the toolkit, as well as providing sort of skills and opportunities to plan for and practice facilitating dialogue. The next commitment is to report out on how your community conversation series is going. We do ask hosts to distribute participant surveys, submit their own partner feedback, as well as submit photos and at least one social media post highlighting the work on the series. Finally, once programming concludes at the end of August 2026, we ask that each host organization attend a small group reflection session on Zoom. And this is really an opportunity to reconvene with other organizations from the cycle's cohort to share your experience leading the series and learn from others. All right, that moves us into program timeline and what's on the application. So quick overview, the application will be open until Friday, November 14th at 5 p.m. We'll be notifying people by January 12th. Once again, the facilitator training in Chicago will be all day Wednesday, February 4th through Thursday, February 5th. And then programming will take place anytime between February 2026 and August 2026. And you'll see there's two parts of the application. The first part is general information for Illinois Humanities. This is information we collect for anyone applying to any opportunity. So organization information, program director information, so the person who will be the point of contact for community conversations, some information about organization staffing and leadership and financials. And then what the rest of this video will sort of focus on are these community conversations narrative questions. So these are just a small number of questions that essentially ask you to tell us why you're applying, what your action plan will be. So how will you introduce, promote, and lead this series, how you would utilize the funds that we can provide towards this series, as well as facilitator information you have so far. So we'll cover some tips for answering these questions. You'll see each of them listed here on the slide, but we'll dive a little deeper into them. So the first is to really align this to your organization and goals. So as you mentioned earlier, we want to hear how leading community conversation series might connect to or align with the work that you're already doing. What might success look like for you in leading these conversations? What about this year's theme might resonate with your community or spark conversations around topics that are both important and relevant? The next tip is really we're looking for hosts who are interested in serving both longstanding and new audiences. So because of this, we encourage you to consider maybe partnering with another organization who could help you promote this conversation series or bring in new participants to your organization or actually help you co-host and facilitate. Something that we found is that community conversations are often enriched when there is a diverse group of people at the table. And we're really encouraging applicants to think about this broadly. So considering age diversity, ideological diversity, as well as diversity of background and experiences. We are also particularly interested in working with organizations who are working alongside immigrants or in immigrant communities. This next tip is be specific about your series and reference things from the toolkit that stood out. I walked through earlier some of the activity samples we already have, as well as some of the sub-themes and artifacts that will become activities that you will see in the full toolkit. So if there are sub-themes or artifacts or objects that stick out to you or that you feel like your community may be interested in exploring, reference it in your application. If you reference it and are saying, hey, I'm really interested, in leading the activity around Morris Birkbeck's letters, that's great. It's not set in stone, but it does give us a better idea of how you think these materials may support and engage your community in conversation. So we find this last tip to be quite important. In order to have conversations around this theme or any theme, we really have to create space for people first to gather and connect. So some of our most successful partners in the past have really thought strategically about how to do this. So some things to think about that you might want to include as you're applying and thinking about this series is, is there a structure you might want to use to promote people getting together? This could be adding time in before and after the event for food and mingling, or it could be inviting people to bring something related to the event or topic to share and exchange or to think about before you even get into the conversation and the dialogue guide itself. And then when you're thinking about engaging new and longstanding audiences, strong applicants will consider how to make these events accessible. This might mean including in your action plan or budget funds or considerations for things like closed captioning, transportation vouchers for participants, or even childcare on site for people who might not be able to attend without someone able to watch their kids. So that could be, paying someone to do an activity with children so that the adults can be present and engage in the conversation event that you're having. So just things to think about as you're completing your application and planning for your series. I'm going to jump now to some frequently asked questions that we get. So the first one is just in terms of like, what is the flexibility of the activities? Can I create my own activity instead of the ones in the toolkit? And for us, because the toolkit is grounded in so many primary documents curated to explore this theme, we are looking for organizations who are interested in leading the activities that are currently available. Certainly, there's flexibility within this and how you kind of guide and direct the dialogue. And if you want to infuse maybe companion documents that might be of particular interest or relevance to your community here in Illinois. And during facilitator training, we'll discuss this further, especially if there are ideas for some other activities. Sometimes these are best included in the closing dialogue as a way for your community to sort of synthesize what's been discussed through the activities from the toolkit. The next question is that we often get is, do the same participants attend all events? So does the person who show up for the opening dialogue come to the next three? Um, and this question, it depends. We hope so, but it depends on how you structure and promote your event. We do recommend having sort of the dates planned and promoted ahead of time so that people could attend each event in the series if they want. You might also want to think about fun ways you could incentivize this, whether it's punch cards or a raffle. That being said, there is likely to be a mix of new and returning faces at each event. And because of that, the dialogue guides are written to work as standalone activities, even though we find that the activities and the conversations that come from them are often enhanced when people have attended multiple of the events in the series. The next question here is how adaptable is this, or can I use it with students or children? And so while you'll see on the sample activities that are in that toolkit, we do try to offer an age range for each activity so that they could be adapted to reach younger audiences. But we want you to know that we are working on providing supplementary lesson plans for the toolkit that are going to be specifically geared towards middle school and high school. So these will be freely available to anyone who wishes to use. So know that those are coming down the line. And then another question we get is like, this is great. We love the theme. We love the toolkit, but we wouldn't be able to do it until later in the year. Can we still apply? And, unfortunately for this community conversation cycle, and given our own grant and reporting timelines, partners must have completed their event series no later than August 2026. So we are pretty set in stone that if you're applying, it needs to be feasible to host these events sometime between February and the end of August. Okay, I only covered a few questions there. There are most frequently asked ones, but if you have other questions, please reach out to me at conversations@illinoishumanities.org or 312-374-1558. But in terms of next steps, we really hope that you apply on our Illinois Humanities website. I provided the link for you on the screen here. You can also go to Illinois Humanities, go to the top right where it says programs, and you'll find the link for community conversations. And if you haven't already, please join our mailing list. It helps you stay in the loop of opportunities that arise throughout the year, like community conversations and others. So thank you, and we look forward to reviewing your application soon.